Okay, there are, usually I give you stories about other people whom I personally know in Dubai, UAE. Okay, but today I'll give you the story of my stepfather, Frederick Pinto. I even feel it funny saying his name. Frederick Pinto Gandik Chimto. Pinto is, I don't know, it's a very funny sounding name. Was my stepfather. And obviously, my half brother, he has it. So, anyway, okay, let's move on to the story. I'll tell you. Now, as far as my earliest recollection of Frederick Pinto was, I always assumed that he was my father. You know, I mean, as a child, you're born, the face that you remember, the person that you interact with, is your father. So, for me, he was my father until obviously at the age of, I think, 13 or 14 or something. One day when my mother gave me a solid hammering, and then she told me, see, your father loves you, Pinto loves you, whatever, even though he's not your father. And I remember the shock, for a small boy to hear that your own father didn't love you, and tears just streamed out of my eyes. It's funny that I even remember that. It was a very powerful moment for me to know that my own father left me. And okay, obviously, maybe as small, I didn't think much about it, but that story somehow stuck, and kind of remembered that he was my stepfather after that. Okay, anyway, so my stepfather, when he came to UAE, he came in the 80's, okay? And you need to understand, UAE, that time in the 80's, was a desert. It was nothing but a desert with few small, like maybe small, even smaller than this, typical Arabian villas, and a few buildings, old roads and street lamps, and like a 2-lane road and few cars moving, not much traffic, not many people. Like, think if you're going to a country where the population is very low, like for example, say like this here, on this island, like right now I'm walking on the road. Think for example, one road here, traffic is coming this way, street lamps, there is a divider where sand is there, and other side cars are going the opposite direction, but you will get one car every 10 minutes or 5 minutes, but maybe on the main road you will get few cars here and there. So he came to UAE when it was a desert. The only building that was there in UAE those days was the big one in Dubai, World Trade Center, Dera Clock Tower. Those who have been in UAE in the 70's and 80's will know this. Okay, Dubai World Trade Center, they got the rights from USA to have that name. It was a prestigious building, you couldn't go near it. Then there was obviously the buildings that were near it. One of the landmarks over there, now it is Burj Khalifa, and there's super complex highways. That time there was just a road, and Toyota, one building was there. And after a certain point from Dubai, there was no road, it was only desert. You had to use a 4-wheel drive to go through it, otherwise you wouldn't survive. Camels were there and all that. Okay, so he came during those days. And obviously, the jobs that were there, or the companies that were there, they're just far and few, mostly Western companies. So he joined a company called Emitac, Emitac. Emitac, maybe it was Emirates Technical, that's why they got the name Emitac. And the owner was Bukatir Investments. Bukatir. Bukatir was a Sharjah those days, in the 80s, he became a billionaire. And you need to keep in mind, Indians and Pakistanis were the maximum number of people there. And they used to love watching cricket. Bukatir was the only one who had a stadium in Sharjah where these cricket matches used to be played. India versus Pakistan. Little did people know at that time that they were all bettings and bribes and money being thrown under the table for Pakistan to win the matches and India to throw away matches. And lots of money was being exchanged, black money. That is why later on when they did find out, Sharjah Bukatir was banned from having cricket matches. He totally lost the rights. They never, had any cricket match there. So my stepfather used to work for him. I don't want to give him the honor of being called a father. So he used to work for him, and he joined his company Emitac. That was near, the Dubai Sharjah highway that was there, the final highway. Those days, that highway was not there. Okay, Dubai Sharjah highway, which is there today. That highway after which you used to get the Dubai Sharjah massive road. On the left hand side, you had to go maybe 500 meters or so. There was the office. And imagine the 80s where there was telex. Anyone from the new generation would not know what is a telex. Telex. You'd get like braille, kind of dot, 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 dot. Like a tape would be there. There was, telephone was there. There was telex and what? Some other machine was there, man. I can't remember it. Okay, so he used to sit in the reception. He used to take phone calls and do the reception work. You'll be surprised to know, for the reception work that he was doing, just as a receptionist, I think he was getting paid close to, I don't know, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 dirhams. Roughly, obviously he never told me. But he was getting paid really good. And for those days, for his education, later on, I used to always think he had a master's degree and all that. I just found out he was just passed from school, And that also, he was an average student, failed in, like, just pass marks. Later on, I accidentally found his, marks card. And even my mother, nothing great. So, just imagine, just for being a high school pass or whatever, you're getting in the 70s or 80s, say 80s, you're getting $1,000, example. Big money, man, big money. And obviously a receptionist. So they were being paid, I suppose they were being paid UK standards, because mostly the management were UK. Goras used to get paid very big money. Indians were like the lower level. Emiratis, obviously, citizen of the country, they always like Goras at the top management. Below that, Indians, Pakistanis. Those were the days of channel 33, which is the only TV channel, and FM 92. Okay. So my father is getting that salary, and obviously because he was staying in the company quarters, the money more or less was, you didn't have to pay much money for rent or no money. Food was dirt cheap. And they used to cook always in the house. Indians, especially our Indians, South Indians from poor families, we cook food and we keep it for the next day. Cook food, keep it for the next day. Cook food. We used to cook chicken curry or fish curry, whatever. Indians eat curry food. We will cook for the whole week. And then it'll go less. I remember sometimes we used to eat the choicest pieces first. And then less. Last in the fifth day or something, there would only be gravy and rice. I remember those days so well. There was no such thing as a supermarket or anything. They were just small groceries. And the only supermarkets that were there were KM Brothers. I think KM Brothers, yeah. Choitrams, Lals. These were Indian families, I think, that were based in Africa that opened Lals and Choitram. They were the only big supermarkets, and Spinneys came after that. So my father used to earn that. Okay, he's happy with the salary. My mother also, she worked with the I'll make my mother's video in a separate one. So he used to get good. And soon from telephone operator, I think he became receptionist. And eventually, Imitac, I think, they were dealing with HP products, Hewlett Packard. Those days, they used to do printers and all that. They still do, right? Yeah. So I think Imitac had that agency. But very soon, I think my stepfather, I don't know, he moved. And then he joined Bukatir's company that was doing data entry operators work for all the tickets, you know, airline tickets. They used to do their ticketing data entry operator. So they had a, I think, office that was based in Sharjah. So he's working there. So he still continued with Bukatir. But his salary kept increasing from, you know, I assume, I can't say it with the confidence. I think he was getting in the 90s around 8,000 dirhams. So let's say roughly $2,500, which is still a huge amount. If you were to evaluate the 80s salary today, let's say my father was actually getting maybe $15,000 or $20,000, say $15,000, 10 times more, which is a big amount for a telephone operator. Just wanting him attack, you know, that's it. Has to listen to him sometimes talk. And being a data entry operator. And when people used to come in, he used to always greet them. And that was his job. Faxes was the name I was searching. Telex, faxes and all that. He had to just manage them. And so dedicated to his job. And he used to, even though the working hours were 8 hours, he used to work for, I think, spend the whole day in the office, 12 hours, 14 hours. I don't know what they were doing there that long. So yeah, now the benefit of all this was, because he was working with the Bukatir, and my mother was working for also Bukatir. All of them were working for Bukatir Investments. So he had Emitac, and they saved, I think, 80% of their income. 80 to 90%. Hardly anything was being spent. Obviously, as the dynamics of the UAE market changed, I think they started evolving. They realized there's a lot of cheap labor in India. You can get people from Philippines, from Bangladesh, from Sri Lanka. You know, most of the people who went to Dubai in the 70s and 80s, they all made so much money, so much savings. That is why if you check in India, anyone who worked in UAE in the gold years, you would say the golden era, they all have villas and houses and property and land and all, because there was no intense competition. It was a booming market. So you could say the first generation or the second generation that went there, they all made money. Like, it was not surprising for one person to join a company, be in that same company 30 years and have like 2 villas or 1 villa, land, and anyone would say that I'm from Dubai. It was like, wow, like he's a very big man. Like, you know, people would crowd at the airport. He was like a superstar if you would say I'm from Dubai. So yeah, you will not believe this, but my stepfather and mother had, I think a total of 4 houses, 4 properties in Mumbai. Mumbai being the most expensive. She had one house in Borivali, which is a part of Bombay, Mumbai, whatever you call it, Borivali. She had one in Char Bangla, that is Andheri. She had one shop in Borivali. And last but not the least, I think another property in Mangalore. I'm not too sure, okay? So there were like 4 properties, and they had invested, saved money, they had money in the bank. Oh, they were happy. You know, my father was so overconfident, overconfident, that when he used to walk like this. Seriously, like this in the house. Not smiling. Like he was a short fuck, piddly fuck that he was. And he would walk like. In fact, because he was earning so much money, he was given so much of importance. People used to be like, when he used to walk in the house, all the, my mother's sisters all would keep quiet. Oh, like they would say in Konkani, Petty. Petty means Frederick. They would call him Petty. Petty Aila. Aila means came. Petty Aila. Oh, they would all keep quiet. Shh, because they didn't want to disturb him. So he was like the school principal, headmaster. And we used to all shake with cheer. And obviously he was very strict with me. So he enjoyed that authority. But here's a comedic part that proved to be his tragedy later on. He never upgraded his skills. He never knew how to market himself. He didn't know how to sell himself. He didn't know how to craft a resume. I don't think he ever knew that. Because I did check his resume. The typical amateurish shit that you put in Word. Like if someone were to just type something, name, age, what do you do, where you're working, position, job description, few lines, 1 page or 1.5 page or something like that. Just a typical, those days Microsoft, you can just put some bars or some design amateur or just type it out on a sheet of paper. In fact, here's the most comedic part. He didn't know how to dress. He would just wear a trouser, shoes, the cheap shoes which you get for $10 or $2, white socks, trousers, and just a shirt, a typical shirt with your pot belly and with a tie, simple tie, you'll get cheap. So my stepfather never knew anything other than just get up, go to work, come back. Okay. He would never read any book. He would never educate his mind. He never knew sales. He never knew marketing. He never knew anything. He just knew go to the office, reception, do the work, spend more hours, come back. And obviously over time his ego and his pride that he was a guy earning big money. Big money means, frog in the well. Frog will think it's big. However, I'll tell you where the tragedy took place. One fine day, I remember, I think I was in India that time. I'm not too sure. Yeah. This was during the Gulf War, in the 80's. He had resigned from the company. And we had all gone to India. Okay. We thought there was going to be a nuclear war and all that. We took all the belongings, everything. For me, I was devastated and destroyed. I can make another video of my experience in India during the Gulf War. I was, I think, a 16-year-old boy. Not to show my age, but the first time BST bus, the first time train, the first time experiencing India. I never knew any of this. I never knew any of this. So, fine, after I went to India, and then obviously they tried to make a business and all that, realized India doesn't work, they came back. When they came back, obviously, that was the first time when my stepfather spoke to my mom on the phone, he was actually sobbing and crying. I never thought he would cry, because he didn't get any job, he felt that nobody loved him and this and that. And so my mother was telling, Papa is crying and all. I remember that also. So finally he came down. After he came down, obviously he had resigned from the job of Emitech. He joined that other company I told you, the ticketing, this thing. And he joined as a data operator there. And he had to input all the tickets and check the numbers and codes of airlines and this and that. And okay. He was not a supervisor, just below the supervisor. This continued for some time, earning that salary, until one day he came home. He came home and, like, I used to sleep in the hall room on the floor, okay? And they used to sleep in the bedroom with my stepbrother, which was like a corridor. The hall room is here. You walk, here is a kitchen. You walk, here is one room, which is to give for rent. There are two bathrooms this side, the opposite side. And then the last ending is the bedroom, okay? So hall room, kitchen, another extra bedroom, and finally the main bedroom. So I used to sleep in the hall room, and this was where my study table and all that was kept in a corner. And they used to stay in the last room. Now, one fine day, I think I realized he didn't have a job. And how I realized he didn't have a job is he stopped going to the office. And when he was sitting at home, obviously for me it's bad news because he was always strict. So he used to keep reciting rosaries. And for those of you who do not know, Catholic families, Catholic, especially Indian families, they have this namesake bullshit prayer, which they will, normal praying, you'll sit down and say a prayer, just rattle off, our Father what in heaven, just go on as like a sing song, light two candles, put a statue there and pray, pray, pray. But if you're in financial need or you need God's mercy, you'll kneel down. And if you really need very bad, like mercy or favors, you'll raise your hands and kneel down. And they used to make us, seriously, I'm not even joking. My parents used to make me kneel down, raise the hands, so that God would feel pity and give us, answer our prayers. She would make me raise my hands for 20 minutes. They would not raise hands, I had to raise hands. What bullshit, man. It's total. Just imagine the torture every day. I used to hate that. Okay. I used to never understand what is all this raising the hands and praying and kneeling down, pain my knees and all that. Read the Bible and so I used to pray for 20 minutes to half an hour every single day. Okay. So praying to God to help this loser get a job. Until one day, I think when he was praying with me and he just said, why did you, I don't know, all of a sudden he broke down and said, why did you give me a son like this? Like, why did you give, he's a burden for me. I wish he died and this. And I was like standing, what the fuck are you saying, man? Burden, this and that. And he started to cry. I just walked out of the house. I couldn't take it anymore. I was 16, young, hot-blooded. Like, fuck all this, man. So I remember coming back and he was okay by then. What my mother told me then was, and I think he also opened up when he was talking to someone. This is actually what happened. When they were terminated, they were all given these papers. Imagine you work 20 years, 15 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. And as a token of appreciation, you're given a A4 size printout, which you can put it in a, like a frame. Or this is to certificate of excellence for 10 years, certificate of excellence for 20 years. Where are you going? Okay. So my wife is going to, my baby is not keeping well. So they used to give him all these certificates which he used to put on the wall. He used to have so much of pride, and they used to give him a pen, cross pen or something or another. So he used to have a lot of pride with all that nonsense. So when he was given the letter that you're being terminated, he got a shock. He went to the, apparently he went to the manager's office and he was crying and saying, hi, you give me a resign. He's saying, yeah, we don't need your services anymore. But I give you 25 years of my life and I worked for, 16 hours, 18 hours. I would come on a day off and, what did that British, I think he was a British guy or Pakistani British or whatever. Definitely Pakistani British. He told him, Who asked you to work for 14 hours, 16 hours, 18 hours? He told him. Who asked you? Management never asked you. You worked. You're not efficient. Who asked you to come 6 days a week or 7 days a week? You should have said no. And then he said, who asked you to work with us for 25 years? You chose. We didn't ask you. If you wanted, you should have resigned. He's saying, and you didn't work for us for free. You worked. We paid you money. Today, we don't need you. That's it. It's a business decision, nothing personal. It was such a shock for him. Such a shock for him. He thought he was indispensable. He thought he was, whenever anyone used to ask him, which company work? Emitac. He used to always say with pride, and he used to walk with that authority like this, And lo and behold, kicked out in one day, no send off. And best part, all the people who used to kiss his ass and talk to him and come visit his house, obviously, that falls a part of it. Nobody cared. Now, what was the aftermath of all this? All that overconfidence that he had, the indestructibility that he's the man and all that, all died. Zero confidence. Nothing. And he literally tried for, I think, the next 10 years applying for jobs. He didn't know how to apply for a job. He didn't know how to present his CV. He went to, those days there was BAC, British American, I don't know the full name, BAC, one recruitment agency, BBB, Better Business Bureau. They were in Dubai. He would go there, register his CV, nothing. Those days they used to take typing test. Typing says they used to register. You have to pay 150 dirhams if you had to search for a job. His confidence got crushed. Nobody bothered. Everyone was kissing his ass. Nobody came. He before he used to act high and mighty and all died. And he used to act strict in the house and all that also. And by the time anyway I grew big, so I used to give a care a damn about him. Overall, his identity, his confidence, his whatever greatness he had was all because of that job. And when that job ceased to exist, when that guaranteed payment ceased to come in, he was a nothing, he was a nobody. That is why so many people, even those who work in Emirates Airlines, where do you work? Emirates. That, nose up and, oh, I work in Citibank. But when they lose a job, they become broken. They cry. I've seen people literally fall down and cry because they have been terminated. Because they work 20, 30 years in the same company. So what is the moral of the story that I can give you to all this? Here are some of them. One is, your career is not you. Your job position is not you. That brand that you're working for, it is not you. It is just a role that you're playing. So don't be too proud about it. Don't show off about it. Don't act smart about it. Because any day you'll be thrown out. That's number one, the biggest one. The second one is, you're a fool to work for the same company for more than a few years. Gone are the days, oh, my father worked for this factory 30 years and he retired with a gold watch. Nobody gives a fuck. You're stupid if you work for a company for more than one contract. You must search for another job. Number three, biggest thing that he did was never upgraded himself, never learned any new skill, never knew how to market and sell himself, never knew contacts, connections, was always in his bloody comfort zone. He was just happy. I'm getting my salary, I don't give a damn. I know I put many points in this third one, but you cannot remain in your comfort zone, man. You cannot think you're invincible or indestructible or indispensable. You're a real idiot if you think. He never made his resume. Because obviously, those days who would know what is personal branding. Never made his resume, never knew how to market himself, never knew how to face an interview, never knew how to talk, connect, network. Nothing. He didn't even know how to bloody dress. Okay. Then point number 4 is, you know, because he worked hard and he got a salary, he always thought, oh, I'm getting paid good. No, you have to evaluate how much are you getting agreed. What is your contract? You're getting paid per hour. If you're getting paid to work 8 hours, 5 days a week, 8 hours, that is 40 for 4. 8 5s are 40. Say, let's say 40 hours. For example, let's say 40 hours a month. Okay. How did I get that? 8 5. 8 hours a day. No, 40 hours a week. Sorry, 40 hours a week. Sorry, my maths is bad. So if you're working 40 hours a week, assuming, and all of a sudden to prove to the management you're working 80 hours, now that 80 hours better translate into something within a period of time. Yes, I have worked for free for people, but that translated into a promotion with, 1.5 times the salary within few months. This donkey worked 25 years of his life getting that certificate that he put on the wall, the A4 size cheap shit paper that meant jack shit with people's signature. It's just, instead of giving someone an increment, you give that worthless piece of paper. I can print one. It cost hardly a few cents. He worked and he was happy sitting in the office, warming his chair, warming his ass, impressing the boss. Oh, the boss thinks, oh, he's old in the office whenever he wants to. So if you work more than 40 hours, let's say you work 80 hours, you're actually working for half the salary, man. You're fucking idiot. So that's another mistake people do. Point number 5. I always tell my clients, work harder on yourself than on the job. Seriously, work harder on yourself than on the job. If you have 8 hours to work, example, let's say 10 hours to work. 6 hours is working this and that hour, maybe 2 hours going up and down in emails. Okay, so 6 and 8. Then 2 hours that is left, focus on marketing, selling and promoting your brand, networking with people, letting people know you exist. It can be rubbing shoulders with your boss or higher management or the contacts and connections in the market, suppliers, vendors, clients, customers, whatever. Let people know you exist. And this is not a one-day exercise. It is a lifelong exercise. Point number what? 6? 5 or 6, whatever. Another mistake that this idiot made was he never factored in that one day you'll be thrown out. This is something almost every expat who goes abroad or who works in a company thinks, oh, no, they'll never terminate. You know that after COVID now, everyone is always afraid, shit, I'll lose my job and all that. And yes, it's not that he didn't try to run a business side. Every other business he tried to run failed. Which I think comes to point number 6 is, if you have been an employee for your whole life, don't think you can become a businessman. If you have to succeed as a businessman, you cannot have an employee mindset. You need to have an employer mindset. Me was always a rebel. I never wanted to be an employee. I never wanted to be working under someone. I wanted to work for myself. And yes, I know people will say, yeah, even if you get a customer, you have to keep the customer happy. So basically you're working for him. Yeah, I agree. You have to see, when you start your own business and you get into the real world, you have to work even more harder. There's no successful guy in this world, not one, who doesn't work more than 16 hours. Some of them work literally until they sleep. It's crazy. You need to have that obsession, man. Let me end with one last point. Say point number 8. I'll give 2 more, okay? Okay, let's end with 9. Point number 8 is, what I do is personal branding. What I do is to stand out. And I do it every single day. That's why these videos and all that, every single day. You have to stand out. See, why the tattoos on my face? Why the personality? Why the marketing? Why the talking? Because I work hard and I try to make sure I stand out. That is why when anyone sees me, I don't look like anyone else. I don't talk like anyone else. I am my own person. And we all are unique. You don't have to get tattooed to stand out. But You need to figure out, how are you going to stand out? How are you going to be a personal brand? And if you do not have the answers to this, the day you lose your job or the day you hunt for a job, if you don't know the answer, the employer will never know the answer. Then why should he take you? Why should he give you the salary you ask? And last and not the least, the final one. My stepfather never had a coach, never had a mentor. I know you'll automatically think, Loy is marketing himself. My dear, I am a product of coaching. I'm a product of mentoring. Remember this much, I was a school dropout. Okay, I didn't, school namesake I completed, I don't know how I did the last one. After complete, I never interested in completing my college, never interested in, never. But how am I so knowledgeable? How am I so smart? Or how am I with so much experience? Yes, I made mistakes. Only because I was guided to be street smart, to know the realities of life. Like even dealing with a relationship, a girl, or emotions, or feelings, or office politics, or marketing, selling. All this didn't just come from books. If that was the answer, buy all the books, read it, or read Wikipedia, memorize it. Finish, no? It is because people who are far more successful than I was, far, far, far more, old enough to be my father's, I don't know, even elder to him, who are much better role models than my stepfather could ever be. He was not in 1% of my mentors. And I don't know how, right from a small age, I always had that fire to be trained and learn from the best. Even though I didn't have access to internet or TV, I always thought someone can teach me. And I was thirsty, dying for knowledge, obsessed. And I'll tell you, I didn't care how much money it would take. Whatever I'd earn, I'd put the whole thing because I wanted to be the best. There was nobody to tell me this. I didn't know a word like mentoring or coaching existed. But I continued all the way till the day I left UAE. And that is till the age of 40, 40. I had a mentor. Today I'm 46, 45, 46. I don't know my age also. Today now, my mentoring is not full-time like before, not like obsessively crazy. That's why I'm where I am. Others, impossible, man. How? Others, how? And I'll tell you, for a guy like me who has ADHD, who has no patience, who's a rebel, who is so crazy, makes so many mistakes, loves attention, hey doggy. How do you think I ever became? Made so many mistakes. So this is the story, and that is why today my stepfather, from being a man who had all the money, all the property, everything, to retire like a king, today is penniless, bankrupt, living on the pennies of other people. So this is the story of my stepfather. I have absolutely no respect, no regard, nothing for this man. My blood boils when I see him. I've tried my level best to try to put it under the rug. He just triggers me when he starts talking, the way he acts and behaves. Maybe I'll put another video and tell you how he behaves and acts with me. But there's nobody else who can piss me off more easily than he. Take it from me. And there's no human being I more deeply hate than this guy. If there was the greatest revenge or the most painful thing that can happen to any individual, I would love for it to happen to him. And I don't want him to die fast. I want him to live and be miserable for a long time. Anyway, that's for another story. So this is it. My stepfather, who had the golden opportunity to make all the money in the world easy. All he had to do was just retire and not spend money stupid and not invest in business and not make those mistakes, which is another video. I'll tell you what all business mistakes he made. What a dick. I think he overall spent nearly $1 million. and he went minus million thanks to him and my mom. My mother is a bigger culprit in this. Anyway, this is what I wanted to share. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. It's me signing off. You guys take care.